And there we are, back again. Oh, Dave, could have imagined. You look good in that shirt. I know I do. Yeah, thank you for saying it. You don't think so? You're just patronising me, aren't you? Yeah, you are patronising me. I can tell by the look in your eyes. So today's show is all about how to get your podcast sponsored. It could be your video podcast. It could be your posts. But there's a lot of different ideas which I think will be useful for you. I'll turn the music down slightly, but I do like this music. Trip hop. That's enough of a good thing. Don't give people too much, they get excited. But I do like it myself. Okay, so we're going to be looking into how to get yourself sponsored. There are a number of different things to go into this, and you will want to make notes. If you haven't got a podcast at this stage, don't worry about it. Hopefully you'll be thinking about starting one, and it doesn't matter whether you're a hairdresser, or you make sandwiches, or you collect bins, or whatever it is that you do. You might have some really nice pottery collection. Or maybe you get cartoon characters like this. I'm Groot. There we go. That's my new child. And the batteries are run out, so I can't press any button. No, it's not really a child. It would be hideous if it was my child. It's just we bought this for Maya for Christmas a couple of years ago, and she grew out of it. Who could have thought? So I kept it. Don't judge me! In fact, if you're going to judge me, then you should have a close-up of it. Look at that. I'm Groot. That's me. I didn't move my... Look. I'm Groot. I'm Groot. I'm Groot. I'm Groot. Did you see my mouth move then? I'm Groot. I'm Groot. I'm Groot. Anyway, it's pathetic. I know I should grow out of it. Do you know that Vin Diesel, who plays Groot in all the Marvel movies, is paid something like $50 million for doing that? All he does is just voice I am Groot a number of different ways. All it ever says is I am Groot, or we are Groot once, but I won't spell that for you. And he gets paid crazy money just for doing that. I remember when I was reading about them making the Marvel movies, and he said it was going to play one character, and it was Groot, and all he says is I'm Groot, and it's not even going to be him on screen. Everybody laughed and went, oh wow. You could imagine Vin Diesel, because he's almost like a superhero anyway, being some proper character, but he ends up being one of the most favourite ones in the Marvel universe, which makes a lot of sense. Alright, first thing is this. Get your personal branding up to speed, your social media, social proof, evidence of your expertise and how good you are at doing stuff, and your track record of success. I'm serious about this. People are going to work with you. They're going to look who you are. If you aren't anybody, then they're going to go, this is a nobody. Why am I spending my money on that? Now, if you haven't got a reputation and you haven't been doing stuff for a while, then start doing stuff. It doesn't mean that you have to be necessarily, filmed with all these big stars. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for commitment and evidence that you are into the stuff that you're talking about. So if you can turn around and say, I'm doing a thing all about media, and I used to run this magazine at school when I was a kid, and then I worked for these magazines and newspapers part-time, and I did this thing, then that's evidence about who you are. But you need it to be found by people who can find you without necessarily talking to you, because they will be sharing that stuff with other decision makers before they invest in you. Alright, next thing, concentrate on your vehicle. Your vehicle is your show. What's the name of your show? Serving which audience? Fixing what problem? And how often are you going to broadcast? Let's take that and break it down into more. Okay? So first of all, your vehicle is what you're traveling within. This is my vehicle. This is speakonstage. I created this to help promote my website and my training people to speak. The name was very simple. The Toilet Paper Diaries with Ernesto was very simple. It does what it says on the tin. It shows quite clearly that we're sitting on a toilet and we write a diary. It doesn't at all. It was just something different, but it's a cool name. Then you've got to be able to think about who would be interested in your stuff, who's going to be brought to you by your stuff, and then what's your frequency? How often is your show going to go out? Every week, every day, twice a day, updates, or when a special event comes along that you need to cover for people? It depends on your audience. Thinking about it like social media posting. How often should you post on social media? Well, the simple answer is, how often should you tell somebody that you love them? Once a day, once a month, however many times. That's kind of what you need to do for your audience with doing a podcast and getting your content out. But don't overstay your welcome. Just find out where they are, when they are, and of course, when they want to be reached. You can do it so there's too much content going out, and it can also hijack your day job, because then you don't do anything else and you're not getting a return on investment. It's worthwhile dialing it up when you find you've got more of an audience that's buying into it. And until then, you should really consider just slowing it down. Maybe once a week is good. For me, with my learning curve during a lockdown, I wanted to make sure this show got up to speed in a very short amount of time. And today is number 50 59. Tomorrow will be 60 shows, almost on the trot, because I wanted to make sure that when I start doing a show like this, I'm completely in control. I'm not just making it up as I go along. See? Makes sense. All right, number 3 is this one. In fact, probably show you another one here. Video blog to start. Now, here's what I do with this show. I start off with a video blog, as you can see. If you watch it as a video, hopefully I'm entertaining enough. And, well, hey, and you haven't seen this for a while. This little friend here, and lots of things like that. And sometimes I show you the King of Wakanda. There you go. And that's T'Challa. And also, yesterday I was unboxing, like Ryan, where I unboxed. I know what you're going to think now. You're going to say, Dave, what did you unbox there? What is this? What plug? What plug is this? I'm going to say to you, it's not a plug. It's actually a boxing thing. I've got this, look, I bought this yesterday, right? Boxing, it's finger boxing, right? I'll just take one glove out because I'm not going to spend too long on it. The idea is, there's a game where, as a stress toy, you can box. And you can score points. You probably score points whether you can hit the reds or hit the bottom. I don't know. I've not read it. I said I'd read it yesterday. I mean, I didn't read it in the end, so I've got to apologise. But I have a life, so I didn't care enough to bother. Did I lie? Yeah, a little bit. So get your video, which is what I'm making now, which hopefully is worthwhile watching, not just me staring at the camera. Hello, I'm Dave. Can you see up my nose? You can get the audio from your video and turn that into a podcast, but you've got to be very aware as you do speak that you've got to have lots of interesting things to keep the podcast going. If you're showing too many visual things like, look at that, hey, look at that, Now I've got to describe it now. That's my stress toy I'm showing of you. And I'll go, that's the money. Oh yes, that's the money, honey, right? I'm sure I can talk about that because on a podcast it would work out so people go, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. Then you can get the audio and you can get it transcribed. You can get artificial intelligence websites and bots and pods and things and apps to be able to take the wording from your podcast and turn that into a blog. Now, if you're doing an hour, that's a rather large blog, but you can do it on subjects. Today, we're talking about podcasting. I could take this section I'm doing right now alone and get it transcribed, so it would be a really good input for a blog or a website or an article or a PDF to break it down. And then you can do individual posts, as Gary Vee was saying at the very beginning, where you chop it all up. And literally, if I'm doing an hour's worth of content, and right now I've probably got about an hour's worth of content, then that means that you could break it down to maybe 30, 40 posts easily, and then put them across lots of different social media. Okay, next, road test the name. Basically, the way I've found to do it is to make sure it does what it says on the tin. Whatever you say your show is, effectively should be what it is. So for this, Speak on Stage, I talk about branding, I talk about speaking, I talk about marketing, I talk about promoting yourself, I talk about getting yourself out there, because then when you do get yourself out there, you can speak on stage. It's very simple, a very simple message, and so people can look at it and know more or less where we're coming from. If you look at something that like Monty Python's Flying Circus made no sense whatsoever, but that's why it was successful, because it made no sense whatsoever. So people loved it because of that. But if you try to sell it nowadays, it'd be very difficult unless people knew exactly what it was. Okay, so road test the name, buy the domain. So I've got speakonstage.com. We bought the toiletpaperdiaries.com. If you have a look at the toiletpaperdiaries.com, you can see what we've put onto the website so people can arrive there, see myself, see Ernesto, and they also get access to all the podcasts that they can see and view and listen to that we did before. And then build a landing site with an opt-in box and a gift. Why a gift? Well, when people arrive there, you want to get them to join your mailing list so you can access them and chat to them and send them exclusive deals and stuff. And the only way you can do that is to give them something for free. And so with this, when people go to Speak on Stage, there's loads of stuff they can get for free, training courses and so on. So make sure you go along there and register too, and then you can find out exactly what I'm talking about. So it's an ecosystem, it's a business built around your podcast. And I know this is a lot to take in. That's why I've written it all down so you can make a note of it. You can do a screenshot at the end of this and look and work your way through it. And this is gold. This is gold. You won't get this anywhere else apart from the other billion podcasters who are probably saying the same thing. Okay, set up and register on all the places, all the social media where you need to go. So for instance, Speak on Stage. And this is something, I've got to be honest, this is something that's really labor intensive, but once you've done it, it's taken care of. Toilet Paper Diaries is on all the podcast sites. So that means that wherever you go, when you start posting on a regular basis, on a daily, a monthly, a weekly basis, then you just basically send it through software and it goes bing to everywhere. It gets distributed. And they need to have it like that. All the places where you need to be found, and also on YouTube. YouTube is a priority. I've mentioned this many times before, that YouTube is not just like, it's not just a social media site. In fact, in many ways, it's not a social media site. YouTube is like having a video library in your garden. So long after the stuff that you've posted has disappeared from all the other social media, it will stay on YouTube longer, so it's worthwhile staying around for that and making sure that you've got your YouTube channel that you build up. And it's only small views you get at first until you get 1,000 viewers, and then you reach, I think it's about 44,000 hours worth per year, and the year is a rolling year, so it's like a year from today, and tomorrow will be a year from today, and the day after will be a year from the today, but into day after. So it's the year moves, but you've got to be able to do it in that time for them to promote you, because they see you as relevant, and they also see you as somebody who's doing really well, so they want to get you out there and get you up. So make sure that you've done your YouTube homework as well. Start making episodes across social media platforms and distributing them on all the video sites and podcast sites, and there's loads and loads of them. Just Google sign up. There is software that can send with a push of a button out to everywhere at the same time. Number 7, concentrate on quality and owning your space. This space of this show that I do here with Speak on Stage was actually meant to be 10 minutes long. It's meant to be 10 minutes long for you to have a cup of coffee. And here's a cup of coffee in a very girly cup. Sorry, I don't mean offensive to say girly. It's got flowers on it, and it's girly. I like girls, and sometimes I wish I was one. Shouldn't have shared that. Too much information. But the point is that you want to own the space, and I push every day to get better quality. I spend a lot of quality time just harvesting the very best videos, very best images to really help you see what this show is all about. I think you probably noticed that already. Okay, spread the word gently until you have a quality product. If I'd started off with my first episode saying, Dave's here, everybody, come on, come by the show, watch the show, I'm fab, I'm wonderful, everybody come watch it, then some people would have gone, yeah, that's okay, but then I'd do something really stupid and something that wasn't very professional, or I'd say a bad word, or I'd get frozen, or something that now, since then, I've ironed it out. And I don't want that to be the way that people view a show. I want people to say every show is fantastic, every show is good. So I only started off gently mentioning about my show. I haven't even put any advertising towards it yet, apart from just word of mouth. And so we get about 1,000 people every day, word of mouth, just paying attention because they like the show and they tell their friends. That's a good start. Imagine what's going to happen when we start boosting it properly. Okay, then we start looking at this. Number 8 is, it's a button that won't get pressed properly. Come on. Oh, it's there. Sorry about that. Get guests from the niche and the industry that you're talking into. I'm going to have guests. I'll be having guests on the show soon, and they will be from the various industries that I relate to. There'll be industry icon people, so really high level, or there'll be really massive experts on subjects like tech, or personality building, or mindset. I've got a load of them already in the bag for future episodes. Cross-pollinate streams. This is interesting. Let me just start with music so this makes sense, and I'll be able to share with you exactly what this means. Cross-pollinating the streams means that if you have somebody who's got a podcast, and they've got an audience, and you've got an audience, and the two of you haven't really connected properly, apart from just in a friendship, you can go on their show, so they are now exposed to your audience. That's great for them. And you can go on their show, so you're exposed to their audience. That's good for you. But sometimes that can seem a little bit clunky, because it doesn't necessarily mean that the other person's audience has to pay attention to you or find you. The way to drive this even better is to record a show, make it a little bit longer than normal, and cut it in half. So you want to hear the second half of this podcast, go to their site, and you'll hear that. So you do the lead in, they do the outro, and it means that your audience wants to then start paying attention to both of you. It's really interesting, especially if you're offering a prize in the show, or a couple of prizes in the show, then you get more buy-in for that entire duration of the thing. Does that make sense, yes, Dave? Good. Okay. Number 9, keep the stats and data of successes, failures, and methodology. If you're going to go to a sponsor, they are going to turn around and say, why should we sponsor your show when we already have other shows to sponsor, or we have billboards or Google ads we could be doing. You need to be able to turn around and say, right, what I do is for an hour. Those ads are ephemeral. They only last for like 20 seconds or so. So therefore, this is blah, 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 blah. Don't go blah, blah, blah. If you go blah, 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 you get none of that, and we'll think there's something wrong with you. Blah, 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 blah. Can you get out of the office, please? Blah, 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 blah. Are you underwater? Are you drowning in normal air? Blah, 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 blah. Security! That's me getting some money out to pay for security. That's a bit loud. Okay, so next up with number 10, make an actionable sponsors opportunity sheet. So break down your show and let the sponsors know what each element of your show is about and what it's worth. Do it so it's like you'd have clickbait on social media. When you make something that people are going to click because they're going to love it, make your show sponsor bait. Make it so they'll turn around and go, oh, that's a great opportunity. And break it down with all your statistics of all the segments so they can find it very easy to be associated with it. Okay, now what can you use sponsors for? This is kind of important, so I'm going to spend some time on this. You can use sponsors for, if you look at this shirt, Emirates have sponsored it, right? And IRB have sponsored it. This is the Emirates Airlines Dubai Rugby Sevens event. You can get sponsors for the show, for the title. So you can have Speak on Stage brought to you by Apple or Google or whatever it would be. You can have segments that are brought to you by. You can have segments that are specifically for those different sorts of people. So, for instance, you might be doing a podcast all about healthy eating. And so then you've got a section on healthy eating for golfers. So if you're going out and you're doing exercise and we recommend golf, golf's really good to you, brought to you by the Trump Golf Club down the road. So there you go, Trump International Golf Club or Biden International Golf Club, or there are other golf clubs you could be using.com. Doesn't matter. But the point is you've generated something that kind of fits in with your show, but also keeps the sponsor happy because they will own that space until they stop paying you, and then you can give it to somebody else because you created a monster. Merchandise, advertising. Merchandise is t-shirts. You might go onto your show and have a t-shirt that's got the name of a sponsor on it. You might not want to do that and brand yourself so much, so you wear a big hat with it and the big pointy thing on top. No, you might not do it. Or you might have behind you, or you might have, like I get sometimes, a logo that pops up. If I show you the logo here, there you go. Speak on Stage. See that there in the corner above me? Yeah. Well, you might have that, which is a logo of your potential sponsor all over the place. So you got your sections. You might do live events for them aside from everything, and you might record. And if I go like that, you can see seasons. So you might get the seasons sponsored. So if season 1 is brought to you by this, blah, blah, blah. Season 2. Think about the TV business model and the radio business model, and you'll see how to do this properly, or the ones that are done with magazines and newspapers, if we use them ever. Okay, because that's number 12. They've already been done. You don't have to invent the shape of the wheel, and the opportunity is massive. You're not looking for the cost of the printing press or the broadcasting license or all the rest of that stuff. You're looking for somebody to put some money into your show so you can pocket it and boost the advertising. That's what you're really looking to do, to make a wage from what you love. So it doesn't have to be huge. You're not paying for a ton of staff, you're paying for you. So think about the sponsorship. It doesn't have to be one person, it could be several, all putting together something that looks like a wage. So you don't have to go to work anymore, you can do this forever. Make sense? Yes, Dave, thank you. All right, number 3, set up a trial period and expected outcomes. So you're going to work with somebody for maybe a 3-month thing. We'll do a 3-month trial of shows. We'll do a weekly show for 3 months. That's roughly about 12, 13 episodes. After 13 episodes, we'll see how well we get on. Help me with the marketing, and I'll make sure that I give you a plug and so on. I have made mistakes in the past. Do not forget to put a contract together. It's not just a gentleman's agreement. And do not forget. Make sure you put a proper contract together, and make sure you've got a start and ending on it. If you don't do that, because by and large, most sponsors get involved in it and then they go off to their day job. And every now and again, they check in and they say, right, I listened to your show. You didn't mention me once. I said, yeah, that was like 5 years ago. You sponsored my show. Yeah, but I thought you'd carry on doing it all this time. 5 years. You paid for a month. What do you think? Well, didn't say it in the contract, so as far as I'm concerned, and then they just start turning into some weird talking spaceman. Hopefully not that, because it's really hard to cash in their checks. But you get the general idea. Contract time, the input they have, limit it or add it, depending on whether they can give you expertise into your show. The danger is it becomes their show and they want to then put them all over it. And if you do that the wrong way, it can really affect it. You ever see Wayne's World? Wayne's World was really cool because he got his show sponsored, but then they wanted to be on the show all the time and just killed his show. So you got to be aware of that. The things that your audience loves is what things that the reason why the sponsors love you. And if you allow the creative and marketing department to hijack your show, then you'll end up losing listeners or viewers, and then nobody will want to watch it. And then these guys won't want to sponsor you, and you won't get another sponsor because your show's rubbish. So you've got to get creative control, hold on to it, and get the right balance of it. Okay, keep the quality high, and also check on the frequency of how often you're doing this show as well. All right, number 14, protect your show's integrity. That's what I mean, but be willing to tweak it for a sponsor to make sure they're happy and you're happy, but you're not going to lose the essence of why you started the show and why people do it. So then leverage, define, refine, and enjoy the ride. Wash and repeat. Every episode, do a post-mortem. If you're co-presenting with somebody, then do it with them and have a chat, what worked, what didn't work. If you got a tame friend or a member of the family who pays attention to it, or you can bribe to pay attention to it, sit down with them, say what worked, what didn't work. Go through it with the sponsors, see what they're doing and what they're getting from it. Clear communication and transparency. But remember, when you're dealing with sponsors, you have a specific job, which is to make sure that they get leads, they get branding, and they get their name out there in the best way that makes it look like they've got a tailor-made product. Your job is not to go over to them and let them run your show, because they may not have a clue what they're doing. And they might do something that works for them and doesn't work for you and doesn't work for the audience. If you end up being in a situation where you're doing stuff with so many other people, I promise you, you will end up hating it. That's why I got out of radio. Many people don't know that. I got out of radio because, first of all, I was getting too many pressures at work from management and stuff like that. The staff were unhappy in the places where I was working. It became too competitive and backstabbing. And also, the sponsors were the only things that mattered. I didn't matter. They could swap me with anybody else, so I felt no job security. I just thought, you know what? I'm going to walk away. I'm not going to do this anymore. It's like going to the doctor and saying, doctor, when I lift my arm, it hurts. And the doctor said, well, stop lifting your arm there. Much easier. So I got out of radio, and people saying to me, you're crazy, you should never get out of radio. I said, what a great job. You get famous and everybody loves you and you get free everywhere. And it came to a point where it just wasn't worth it for me anymore. Does that make sense to you? I hope it does. And so that is a danger. If you hand too much of a driving seat over to other people, then you'll forget why you did it in the first place, and you'll end up not doing it in the end. And that means that you've done a disservice to you, to the sponsors, to your audience, and you'll feel unfulfilled. Just a bit of a warning there. Hope this was useful. I'm going to stick my head to one side. You can get a screenshot of that. In fact, I'll go like that. I'll sink into my seat and I'll stroke my Groot. Hey! Nobody's ever said that before. I'll stroke my Groot like a James Bond villain. I know what you're thinking there, and I'm not going to encourage it. I'm not going to do it. You'll end up in prison.